Well, hello, welcome to MarTech Talk. I'm Scott Baradell, and we're exploring tools and strategies shaping marketing technology. Today, we're diving into subscription business models. Subscriptions aren't just about recurring payments, they're about nurturing ongoing customer relationships, consistently delivering value. Chargebee is a key player in the subscription management software market, helps businesses automate and streamline these relationships, allowing for seamless scalability. In today's episode, we'll discuss the evolution of subscription models, the challenges of sustaining growth, and how technologies like Chargebee transform customer engagements into long term connections. And we're very fortunate and I'm very grateful to have with us for this conversation Guy Marion, who is the CMO of Chargebee. Hi, Guy.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for having me today.
Very happy to. It's a very hot business. It gets a lot of coverage. Obviously, when it comes to streaming media on Netflix, it seems like they're talking about it's constantly getting coverage, all the latest of subscription prices going up, subscription models changing, consumers liking this, not liking that. So it's definitely something that gets a lot of attention in the business media. And not only that, but more and more types of businesses are turning to subscription models too. So it's relevant across a lot of industries now. Um, what's your take on specifically something I saw recently that a lot of subscription prices were going up this year?
Yes. Obviously, we've seen that in general in the US and globally, we have seen an inflationary environment at the macro level. But I actually think the story is very different in the subscription scape. We actually published the State of Industry report in January this year. And in there, we learned from over 300 subscription leaders that 73% intend to raise their prices this year. Now, the plot thickens when we realize that actually the subscription industry has been in a race for growth and market share and really establishing subscriptions as a mainstream way by which consumers buy, whether it's streaming media, food, delivery, health and wellness, software, tools, everything's being delivered as subscriptions now. But that wasn't always the case. So actually, I think a lot of the industry has been running below the cost line, meaning they've been running at a loss for many, many years. And what happened in the last 24 months really is that this sort of growth at all cost era where subscriptions, you can imagine Netflix and then Disney Plus coming out. And then now Comcast has bundles with both Apple TV and Netflix and its Peacock service. These companies have all come on the map and they're establishing themselves, building their user base at any cost. Suddenly, Wall Street valuations have dropped across the board for both consumer services and B2B. Funding dried up, and companies were caught in a unprofitable and therefore perilous situation. So what we've seen in the subscription space, and I've personally spoken recently with companies like Condé Nast, the media leader, obviously, and Butternut Box, a European leader of organic pet and dog food, and many others, that there's been a shift on focus from acquisition to growing the value of subscribers in a way that's either profitable or at least break even. And as this has occurred, it's forced companies to reassess everything from who are the right types of consumers or customers to be serving, are their ability to deliver a profitable service in place today so that they can afford to continue to improve their services to meet their customer base, and also how to focus on improving the quality of the service and the experience to reduce churn and maintain retention of those subscribers as well. So I actually think the common narrative that companies are just trying to increase prices, gouge the market, and become extremely profitable has not actually applied in most of the subscription space.
Yeah, it's certainly a issue that you see a lot. This idea of people saying, I'm being taken advantage of, and I think that extends to this idea of, and I know you've seen the services where they say, you've got a bunch of subscriptions that you don't even keep track of. We'll cancel them for you, so you don't have to keep track of them. I guess there's a little personal responsibility that should be expected there, but there is this whole idea of, I start these subscriptions and I can't get out of them, which was, we had the case that just happened of the Department of Justice, I guess, suing Adobe over having a subscription uh, that was difficult to get out of, or it wasn't clear when you were signing up that it was an annual subscription versus one you could cancel monthly. Um, I know you've worked in the business of retaining subscription customers, and what's the right way and the wrong way to do that?
Yes. So, in recent months and years, and the regulatory space is evolving rapidly right now to support the consumer and ensure the protections are in place as subscriptions have become the mainstream way in which people are buying tools and services these days. So, we've seen things like the Unsubscribe Act be presented and proposed. We've seen in California and New York regulation around providing what's called immediacy rights, where consumers who buy online via click process can as easily cancel online. And by the way, this isn't actually new. Before it came to regulatory push, we've seen in the past, in past research, that 80% of consumers that we surveyed said they were more likely to buy a service online if they could cancel it just as easily online, and 81% more likely to refer that service to a friend or colleague if they could cancel it online. So what we've just seen with the Adobe case is, Adobe themselves and many others in the industry, for that matter, have not always optimized for making it easy for customers to cancel online in a single pathway. And so where the market and the regulatory environment is now is getting quite detailed around ensuring that vendors make it easy for those who can buy in one or two clicks to be able to cancel in one or two clicks, literally. And personally, I was the founder of a retention business that today is part of Chargebee. It's our Chargebee retention service. And my motivations, and I think many at the time, came from frustrations with not being able to reach and call a 1-800 number, or getting stuck in endless cancel loops. For example, the New York Times had a famous story published online that exploded around how impossible it was to cancel. And so, the view with retention is make it easy for customers to cancel. The governments are now expecting this, and consumer sentiment matters. Last impressions matter because customers are likely to come
Good way
back
to put it.
again. There is, however, the opportunity to learn why people are learning. And in doing so, implement strategies to solve the problems if people are canceling for reasons that they might not otherwise be. Often they never figured out how to use it, or they're taking a break because they're going on vacation, or they aren't seeing value right now because of a change in circumstance. It might be that providing an alternative, or taking a break, or switching to a different plan, or experiencing a discount would solve the problem and keep them. And we see that actually a meaningful percentage of customers, on average about 23%, will not cancel if there's a solution to their problem provided.
Yeah, it seems like I guess in some cases maybe a company would make it. Obviously, every subscription company wants retention, but maybe
Yeah.
making it harder to cancel is kind of a blunt instrument. When if you really use kind of some of the tools that you're recommending, you can do it in a much more positive and sophisticated way, as opposed to just kind of hiding the cancel button.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Don't hide the cancel button. That's now been proven out over and over. We've seen results where hiding the cancel button doesn't even actually improve retention, even though it seems like it might. And what it certainly does do is lead to huge backlash on social media. And increasingly now it's becoming basically illegal in many states as well. So solve the customer's problem, make it easy, but use better targeting and better testing and better alternatives to solve those customers' problems that need and want to be solved, while learning from those who don't. And that's really the way forward, is to meet the customer where they are and provide a better experience.
What are some other big trends that are going on in the space right now?
Yeah, so one thing we're seeing is obviously AI has blown up and taken over the world, in the sense that every company is either developing a strategy to implement AI to improve internal productivity, or they're figuring out how to incorporate it into their products and services, for those that are tech companies, or even modern retail companies, for selecting the right clothes combination online, for example. Um, this space is growing and evolving very quickly. So one of the trends are, a lot of the AI companies don't want to charge in the ways that traditionally subscription businesses have, for example, based on per user per month or based on some sort of commitment, but they want to charge based on usage, right? So if you think about GPT, number of queries, volume going through, the natural business model is to charge based on the amount of usage. The more you use, the more you pay. And so what we're seeing is this intersection of usage-based pricing that's really, Amazon Web Services has been doing this for the tech industry for many, many years now. Data services like Dropbox do something similar, whether you pay based on your amount of storage. Now it's getting more granular. It can really enable the use of the customers, how much customers using your service. And we're seeing that monetizing, based on upfront use, which can be very low and ramp up quickly, is where a lot of the AI companies are wanting to go, while being able to also offer the predictability and the discounting abilities that come for commitment. So at some level, companies that start with low friction, pay per use, then they say, this is working for what I need. This is the AI product I'm incorporated in my service. And now I want to commit for a longer term and enjoy a discount for doing so. So one of the big trends we're seeing is this intersection of usage-based pricing and subscription-based pricing that enables quick ramp up and learning with longer term growth and more predictable and reasonable, so sort of efficient pricing. Of course, this creates a huge amount of complexity for vendors and AI companies that are themselves trying to build their LLMs and actually become better at AI and provide better services. And so, this is where, Chargebee is in the space of supporting subscription and revenue growth management for a range of B2B and B2C companies. And this is where we're seeing both need and opportunity, is providing and supporting this complexity for the AI companies that in turn want to keep it simple for their users.
Yeah, I was just thinking something like usage-based pricing. As you were saying, and I was thinking, well, that wouldn't work for gym memberships, right? Because you realize you aren't using it, you wouldn't be paying, and the gyms count on all these people becoming members for their New Year's resolutions and then never showing up, right? And that's how they get a lot of their money. But so, how do you determine? And that's good for them. It's a capitalism, right? But how do you determine whether usage-based pricing is right for you?
Yeah, great question. So, as you said, subscriptions don't work even for every business model. Usage-based pricing doesn't work for every business model. Food has struggled over time to retain subscribers of boxes of food because people want to mix it up, which creates complexity. And ultimately, people don't feel like they want to commit to an ongoing supply of food or clothing or other types of areas. So we see more churn in some of those areas. And then on a usage-based front, to your point, the same would apply for magazines. You don't want to just pay based on usage and number of magazines supplied. So I think today what matters is being able to is for subscription merchants or retailers to have the flexibility to try different things. And what we're seeing is the focus on testing and learning based on what others in an industry can be effective at. So a good example of this is the media space. Right. So online news, for example, there's you'll see a lot of testing depending on the particular newspaper or magazine you're looking at. How many articles do you get to read before the paywall goes up and it asks you to become a subscriber, which has become critically important for the business model as some of the ad supported growth has faced struggles with Facebook and others modifying their policies this year and reducing the amount of data sharing. So, companies need to be able to test and evolve. Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4 articles? Can you get access to a service through sharing? Can you pay just based on usage, or keep it super simple? I last week was at a conference called the Sub Summit, which is a summit for subscription businesses in the consumer space. And Alaska Airlines, for example, just launched one of the industry first subscription services for $99 a month. You get an unlimited return flight within California or Western states, as well as certain privileges on baggage and other aspects. They just wanted to start extremely simple, one option, and it becomes a jump off point for more loyal customers to get benefits for spending more of their travel budget with Alaska Airlines. And there it was all about simplicity.
Yeah, that's smart. Well, what do you think? I guess I'll ask you one last big question, which is, if someone's watching this and they're in a business that is not a subscription business, what do you think are the big areas where maybe you see subscriptions having an opportunity to really take off? Maybe they're not huge now. It's not assumed you're going to do offer as a subscription, but there's a lot of potential for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. One area I'd think about is maybe in the financial services. So Klarna, the buy now, pay later service, recently actually rolled the spend fees on transactions, which is typically a percentage of every transaction, into a subscription. And so, what that potentially does is for users who do a lot of subscriptions and are heavy users, they can get more benefit by committing to a monthly subscription where there's charge free transactions. And there's many examples like that. That's effectively disrupting a usage or a transaction fee model of the past and converting that into more, it's a better value for the buyer, for the consumer, if they're spending above a certain amount. And for the financial services space and the flip, for them in a space where customers are getting variable use and they're getting a certain amount of buy now, pay later, and a certain amount is going to their credit card, they are locking in users into a more committed form of using their primary service. So I think we're going to see a lot of change in the financial services space. I think in the health and wellness space, there's more and more services going online, and that's a combination of access as well as subscriptions. And then again, I think we're going to see the outcomes of AI really start to grow in the coming 12 months. We saw the number one area in our most recent survey that we asked which areas are you intending to invest this year from a tech landscape perspective. By far, 46% said AI. And as we start to see this spend really drive into the market, then the vendorscape will continue to expand, and a lot of different business models are going to be tested that will span between subscriptions, perpetual, and usage, and a combination of the three.
That's really cool. I know you're in a competitive space. There's some other competitors in the space. I'm curious, of all the companies out there that are offering subscription services, about do you have a sense about what share of that market is actually working with any of you guys versus trying to do it on their own or trying to do it without the kind of tools you provide?
Yeah, it's a great question. So overall, the subscription landscape is expected to be about a $1.5 trillion industry by the end of next year. And that includes traditional retail moving into subscription e-commerce. That includes B2B services. That includes software and high tech. Currently, still, the great majority of the space are still using either home-built solutions or very basic services and have not yet moved to supporting some of the advancing models by which companies can monetize. So I don't have an exact number, but it's more likely in the 60 to 70% range are still not yet adopting and have not yet moved to more sophisticated sort of revenue and subscription management approaches.
Is there a certain size you have to be as a company in terms of, say, your revenues or your margin, or in order for it to make sense to work with, say, Chargebee, or can it work with a bootstrap startup, or do you have to be at a certain size where suddenly the scale makes sense for you?
Yeah, there's a couple different. First of all, a lot of Chargebee customers are actually brand new startups that from day one recognize they're going to, their opportunities to build the best new product or the best new service. We've had dating sites, for example, where it's all about making sure that people on the platform fall in love and get into relationships and get married, not to be invoicing their customers. So we see a lot of our customers are brand new startups that just get started from day one, and they want to have billing and invoicing and retention handled for them. We also see companies that are in rapid growth where the speed of innovation is not keeping up with their billing and vice versa. And so we do actually see sort of mid-cycle companies that need to quickly and confidently and securely transition from a homegrown system to a third party. And then finally, we actually see traditional enterprise who needs to adopt and move to a subscription model, either for business purpose or otherwise. An example being Pret a Manger, one of Europe's leading coffee and sandwich shops with over 12,000 employees and outlets all over Europe and in New York and across the world. In the pandemic, they realized that they needed to deliver coffee outside the doors of people's homes or in front of their shops since people couldn't come in anymore. And they had to launch a subscription service. They launched Pret Club. Fast forward the clock, they got that out of the gates. Today, their Pret Club users and customers spend more than 4 times as much as non-subscribers, and their overall revenue has increased by over 20% since introducing a Club Pret option out there. We heard the same thing last week from the Vogue Club in Condé Nast, and the Vogue magazine subscription is $30 a year, but a Vogue Club membership is $25 a month because they've created these niche experiences where power users and advocates and lovers of the brand can come together, have cocktail hours, share ideas. And so what we really start to see is this sort of is companies that are starting to build out sort of rich communities and loyalty and membership programs around their brands as well, particularly in the enterprise space.
That's cool. So what should a company do if they're interested in finding out more about Chargebee?
Yeah, so Chargebee is, like I mentioned, it's a subscription management and revenue growth management platform, which means we're helping companies acquire, retain customers, scale their financial operations, and integrate their tooling. Chargebee.com is our website, and there are opportunities to request demos and engage our team that if they reference this podcast, we'd love to make sure they get a special extra discovery discussion with one of our product experts.
Well, that sounds great. I really appreciate you taking the time, Guy. And yeah, hopefully someone out there will see this and take advantage of that offer. It's been a great conversation. It's a fascinating field that you're in, and continued success.
All right. Well, thank you, Scott. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me on your podcast.
My pleasure.